Yo, what is going on, boys? I'd like to welcome y'all to a very special Road to Glory series starring Valdas's own Ncaa. Today is a big day. No, scratch that. Today is a huge day. We will be making the most impactful decision of Brandon's career thus far, and quite possibly the biggest decision of his entire career. Where will Brandon attend school and play Division I football for the next 4 years? So two very important letters came in the mail this football season. The first letter was a long-awaited letter from the University of Southern California, and the second straight out of Columbus, Ohio, from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Brandon considered other schools as the offers kept piling in, such as the Georgia Bulldogs, Tennessee Vols, and Mississippi State. Tough decisions, but Brandon's childhood dream of playing for the Buckeyes, or in the City of Angels at LA Memorial Stadium, would make this decision a little easier. Brandon's enjoying the offseason, coming off a win at the biggest level of Georgia high school football, thinking, man, shit can't get much better than this. Numbers from Gainesville, Florida. Brandon stares at it for a little bit, not knowing exactly what to think of it, but he picks it up as it hits his third ring. And I'll be damned. It's Dan Mullins, head coach of the Florida Gators. Dan asked Brandon how his day was going and said he hoped he hadn't disturbed him, but wanted to let him know the Gators have been watching him for quite some time now, and despite his performance in the championship game, he still wanted to offer Brandon himself an athletic scholarship. Brandon, speechless, said nothing. Dan chuckled and said, hey, no rush, we don't need to answer today. I'll give you some time to think on it. You just give me a call back on this number. A week goes by. The decision has suddenly grew from 2 dream offers to 3. Things couldn't get more stressful than this. Until they do. Atlanta, Georgia number. Jeff Collins here, Brandon. Just wanted to tell you you're a hell of a player, and we would love to have you come and compete for the starting quarterback position here at Georgia Tech. Hope you don't mind a little competition. Now, I know our program isn't the most desirable of the bunch, especially with the offers you got coming in, but hey, we play in the ACC, and we don't play in the Atlantic. That means Miami, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, every year. You beat that group, you probably play Clemson. You beat them, national championship. How does that sound? And before Brandon could respond, Coach Jeff said, you think about it, Brandon. I know you're a winner, and our program needs a winner at helm. Well, things just got a little more stressful. What the hell do we do now? Well, it's simple, really. Brandon looked at the situations for what they were. Sure, he'd go to Ohio State, but they have a proven starter in Justin Fields. He'd go to USC, but they have a two-way quarterback competition with Slovis likely to be the starter. Tennessee and Mississippi State will be solid choices, but Brandon's not really set on either. Florida and Tech both sent in late offers, but that's the exact reason why Brandon's conflicted. Where the hell were they all season? So Brandon decided to go a different route. The University of Georgia had just received a new senior quarterback transfer in Jamie Newman out of Wake Forest. But that didn't scare Brandon. Sure, Brandon would have to work the whole spring and study all summer to remember the playbook and execute the plays properly, but so would Newman. In fact, in a lot of these transfer situations, the playbook is sometimes stripped down to fit whatever the new quarterback is accustomed to or tailor-made to his playstyle. Brandon saw this as his way in. Just work harder than the guy in front of you. You're new and so is he. Work for it. So that's exactly what Brandon did. He worked for it. Since he arrived in Athens, he began putting the work in and week out. If he's lucky, he figured he'd earn the starting job, but if he's not, then he'd wait for Newman to slip up or sit out a year and take it from there. But that last part is worst case scenario. Here's a few highlights from Brandon's practices. There was one thing standing between Brandon and his starting job week 1 at Clemson: the spring game. Brandon figured he did well enough to earn him a decent amount of reps at the spring game, and if he balled out there, maybe, just maybe, he could win the job. Newman had goals himself. The 6'6 senior hailing from North Carolina wanted the starting job just as much as anyone else. He showed his experience too. Take a look at some of these highlights and you tell me who you think deserves to start week 1. The coaches talked it over and decided that based on spring practice and the spring game, Brandon had solidified his place on this team, but the decision on who would start was not yet final at this point. Brandon did good in the spring game and showed a lot of toughness, but Newman hadn't done bad either. There wasn't enough reason to replace the already experienced senior for the young, flashy freshman. So Newman got the nod to start week 1 against the Clemson Tigers. Brandon had no choice but to trust in God and just sit and watch the whole thing play out.